where do people get that information about since we're going there for a minute, where do people get the information about the flat earth, or why is there such a passionate movement towards quote unquote a flat earther movement? What are they seeing, and what's causing people to grab onto that theory?
Well, it comes from, in the Bible, a mistranslation from the Greek to the Latin from the Aramaic to the Greek to the Latin and then to the English, and originally Old English, and now the current English, kind of sort of current English, because English is a quickly morphing language as well. So if we look at the true nature of, the Bible as it was originally written and the way it really means, they say upon the flat earth and the firmament and all of that. If you go back and research those words all the way back through the changes, they didn't mean that the earth was flat. If it's flat, God creates on a template. So, as above, so below. So if we look at how electrons orbit the nucleus of an atom, an electron's not an atom is not flat. Are you flat? No, you're three-dimensional too. So it's all three-dimensional. I mean, unless everything is flat, there's a problem. And then the firmament, they're not understanding what that meant either. So it goes to a psyop was created by Colonel Aquino.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And that's a psyop. And then they use things like the NASA symbol and all of that and all kinds of things. And they're showing, the space shots from the space station are taken at an angle because of another thing they've done, which is when the, England ruled the waves and the British Empire was fully out and was a unipolar power. It controlled most of the world, and the sun never set on the British Empire. They wanted to control everything, and when they went to Africa and saw the immense wealth of, most of the resources of the world are found there in such a plethora. In other words, such an abundance. Diamonds. I have some martial arts students of mine that went to Iraq, and behind him looks like all these big baseballs. And he's holding one, he goes out, picks up one in his hand, and it's a diamond littering the floor of the desert in Iraq. And I'm like, that's a lot of diamonds. He goes, if they were to market these diamonds would be worth less than cut glass. So, and then oil, and then uranium, and on and on and on. So when they first went to Africa, which is by square mileage the size of all of Europe and Asia, but if you take a regular projection, a Mercator, his job was to change the look of the earth on the map, because when they went and wanted to conquer Africa, Shaka Zulu and the Zulu tribe had just conquered Africa. And they were an immense military force. And, his mother and his sister were the ones that ran all the battles, told him how to fight, what to do, because it was a matriarchal society. And he was the general that took all the orders and ran all the battles. And he didn't do the planning. The military planning was done by the women. And so because of that powerful military force, the British Empire, could not have overcome him unless they could convince him that they were massive and huge and powerful. And of course, they had firearms and cannons, and the Zulus didn't have that. But you need to convince him that your military force is too vast. And so what they did, he actually was educated fairly well. He could read and write. If he got a hold of a Peters projection or a Hapgood projection, which is based on nautical miles per, 6,000 feet in a nautical mile and 1 nautical mile per degree, if you take that and you look at the real map of how it lays out, you look at the what is they call, of course, they flip the earth upside down. We'll just do it since people are familiar with the distortion. The northern hemisphere, which is the southern hemisphere, as we said initially, but we'll just call it northern for ease of thought. That the northern hemisphere, you take and cut out Africa and throw it over Europe and Asia. It's nowhere near that big, because they changed where the equator is. They moved it down and make Africa smaller, and make the British Empire, therefore, and England and Europe much bigger. So he would go, well, you could have a lot of people, but if you see the map that it really is on a Hapgood projection, it's tiny. Because how many soldiers could you have? Not many. So I can just wear you down, like the Russians are doing in Ukraine. We'll just wear you down. We'll grind you down. And he would have done that, and he would have realized that, but instead he didn't, because they changed the map. Well, now they want to maintain that distortion. One more way to mess with your head. So what they do is, when they take pictures from space, they take it at an angle, so you get a distortion in how things look. If you look at your head at a perpendicular in front of you, it looks the width it is. But if you turn your fingers away from your eyesight, your hand actually is looking shorter. You're used to knowing that your fingers are getting farther away, so in your mind it's not getting shorter, but in actuality it's looking shorter. And that's how they make the southern hemisphere look shorter. Because if you go to a school like a college, and you go to a room where they have a map on a wall, the equator's not in the middle. It's supposed to equate the middle of the earth. It's not in the middle. It's 1/3 up from the floor, which means they've moved the equator.
That's just so wacky. Talking about other things that are being morphed, we're quickly approaching Christmas. It's hard to believe it's next week and the end of the quote year that we know. And every year, for quite a few years now, it's becoming less and less how it used to be. I'm just going to use Christmas for right now. It's becoming less and less. People, like, whether you call it important or relevant, or the hoopla side of it. Number one, why do you think that's happening? And if it is projected, or people say, I've heard many people say, well, it's a pagan holiday, it's this, that, and the other. If that is true, then why would they be stripping it or trying to take it away? In other words, Gene, is there more to the story than what we're really kind of just seeing on the surface?
Well, they're stripping away the idea of what people believe the time frame, is regarding Christ, and what happened on the day they are being led to believe what happened on that day. Of course, that's not the day. December 25th is not the day. That's actually a birth of a Roman pantheon god. So you're actually celebrating the birth of Moloch. The day that Moloch or Lucifer, one of his incarnations, came to be during that day. The day the birth, the time frame of what they're celebrating is actually a massive murder of life in the U.S. was done on that day, on the true day, that is September 11th. That's why they wanted to besmirch it and make it a day of death. And so because of that, but people have been celebrating it that way for so long, the energy structure and the idea of it is what they want to get rid of. So they want to get rid of the idea of celebrating anything having to do with that holy day for people that, like Christians and myself, believe and feel that God had given the earth his only begotten son. And so they want to erase that, and they want to create a new religion and combine all the religions into one. And so they've been working towards that by changing the days and the calendar and everything, so that people have no real history, no real knowledge of the very important things that have happened. and the when of when they happened.
And what would that one world religion actually be? Would it be like a Luciferian religion?
Yes.
That's what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
So when as they move towards doing this, which is what seems to be happening, I get what you're saying there. Let me pivot just a second back to the zodiac signs if I can for a minute, because so when you think of in terms of being born on a birthday, are you not really born? Do you think in context of, okay, this is not necessarily my birth month or my birthday, but this is my birth sign? Is that how you think? And then if you do think like that, how do you age yourself? Like, how do you chronologically move yourself forward? What does that look like?
Maybe he doesn't.
Or maybe you don't, or you just don't have sign.